Hello, y'all. This is my presentation video for the discussion board for this week in Aviation 360 on the city pair analysis summary. I want to apologize if my presentation seems put together. My excuse this week is I've got my double eye check ride coming up, and I've been focused on getting my PTS lesson plans done. But anyways, this Excel sheet is something that I think is very interesting, and it's something that I've tried to build before, not to the extent that our professor has prepared it for us, but it's something that I enjoy looking through, whether it's for class or not, because it's a cool concept and it's a lot of fun. We were told to go look through different cells, and each of those cells have a different data point that they're trying to bring to us. The first one we were told to look at was the CEO travel miles. And these travel miles are looked at based off of how far the CEO travels in the private or on-demand travel. In the airlines, it doesn't matter. We're looking more at time because you spend time. But in the private world or private jets, whatever you want to call it, you're looking at miles because that matters whenever you're talking about how fast you're going. Because if you're doing short haul flights, it doesn't really matter if you're going 0.98 or if you're doing Mach 7.3 in a PC-12 or a Citation 10. It doesn't really matter. But whenever you're going faster and you're going over those longer distances, that's where the time matters, and that's what the total mile count comes to. That's very important with that. The other one we're looking at is cell E26 and E27, which is travel time and then time savings. And that's essentially just taking your total time spent traveling at the airlines versus your total time spent traveling with the on-demand model. And then you take the subtraction from that, and then you get that we save 433 hours roughly using the on-demand model, going drastically from just under 600 hours of travel spent to 150 travel hours using the on-demand model. So whenever we plug in different airports, or if we had 3 different CEOs, that's time spent traveling that is not spent traveling anymore, and it's a very important number to look at, a big figure. The next that we look at is aircraft time, which is E25, and it's time spent in the airplane. We can look at that in a factor of time you spent in the airplane whenever you're flying on demand or private versus on the airlines, and you can see that I added them all together and averaged everything out. That on average, you spend 2.3 hours in the on-demand model. Versus your average, the flight time is 2.3 versus on the airlines, you have an average of 5.4 with your layover, wherever it might be. So that's a total of 3.1 just hours on average that you're just saving from sitting on an airplane, whether you're doing your work on the computer, laptop during that flight time, or it's just wasting away. That's 3.1 hours out of your day that you get to save, whether you're flying private or on the airline model. The next we're looking at is the airline cost, so E35, and that just gives the total cost of the airline tickets we purchased. I averaged everything out. $1,400 round trip is what it averaged to, which to me that seems kind of high unless you're getting business class every single time you fly. But if we were to fly on a PC-12 based on the flight hours that we have, I don't have the exact figure that I used, but it came out to $21,622 an hour, for each trip. So the total cost per hour in the PC-12, the new PC-12 was $1,696. Was the cost of the airplane, so just under $1,700 an hour to run, and it's going to cost you maybe $21,000 on average per trip based off of the average flight time being 2.3 hours right there, and that's what we're trying to look at with that. So for my figure that I created for this presentation, I figured depending on how far your travel is, depends on what kind of aircraft you need. If you're doing flights that are in excess of 1,000 nautical miles every single time, or 1,500 nautical miles, or cross countries, New York to California, yeah, a turbine aircraft is going to be more beneficial because you'll be able to go faster and further. But if you're doing shorter flights, like 750 nautical miles, less 1,000 nautical miles, then that's whenever you can see that we're going to want a turboprop because it might save us some money. Although we might be going slower, it might save us some money. So we have that our average flight distance is 1,000 nautical miles. And then we can see that we have fairly even quartiles spread across the board with how long our trips are between 500 and 1,000. We're right smack dab in the middle with that quartile. Just above that, we're at with the second quartile, we're with their 1,000 and 1,500. But we can tell that most of our flights range from 700 to 1,400 nautical miles, where I would say a turboprop would probably be better because you don't need, or you're not going complete cross country. You're going maybe Dallas to Las Vegas is one I know that's 900 nautical miles, or off the top of my head, you're going from South Florida to Carolinas, or maybe Virginia, New York to Ohio, or sorry, not New York to Ohio, New York to Tennessee, something like that, where you could use a turboprop. It might take you a little bit longer, but the time savings of it maybe being a PC-12, a single engine turboprop, or a King Air with a PT6 is a reliable engine versus a Citation 3 where you have two engines and the turbines, and then you have all the extra stuff. So that's where you can save some time with that. But that's my figure that I made, my schematic. Yeah. The last part of this that we had to go and figure out was how does this justify, or how can we justify on-demand travel with our company? The first thing, multi-city exclusive travel. Whenever you are flying private, it saves time because you don't have to go through TSA. You don't have to stand at the baggage gate. Seat went down. All those things. And whenever you travel like that, it saves time. So just time savings with multi-city executive travel, we're saving time. So saving time is 100% justification. If I'm saving time, I'm all for it. Access to smaller and more remote locations. Already we know, just based off of our home base, that instead of driving an hour into Nashville to get to the airport, we only have a 20-minute commute down the road to the nearest regional airport. We hop on our plane and we go away. So right there, that's 40 minutes out of every trip that we save right off the bat. Now, whenever it comes to flying to our other airports, instead of flying into the biggest airport around Georgia or around Atlanta, so you fly in the Hartfield, Atlanta, Jackson Airport, or however you say it, you might fly into some more smaller regional airport that's closer. Again, saving you time there. And then on top of that, more on the pilot side, if you have routing or reroutes or time delays or anything, there's less possibility for that because it's a small airport. So remote locations, that's another justification. It gives you access to more locations rather than just the big airports where we see hubs and regional airports. We have rapid response and flexibility being the third point, meaning we don't have to look for a flight tomorrow and see that, okay, we can only get out of Nashville at 1 p.m. We can leave whenever we want us to leave and whenever the pilots are ready. So if I look tonight and I want to leave to Nashville tomorrow, my pilots could have the airplane ready by 7 in the morning and we're off to Nashville. So we don't have to wait for the airline time. We make our own schedule and it helps save us time. Because a lot of times we'll see that we'll have to have a layover or a night at an airport simply because there's no late flight out of Nashville. There's no late flight out of DFW. There's no late flight out of LA, wherever that might be, Oklahoma. So whenever we have rapid response and flexibility with our flight terms, we can then say, okay, I want to leave at 9 in the morning, whenever I want to be there, and then I want to leave at 7 p.m. and then be back for dinner, whatever it might be. And then that way, it gives you not only better advantage on time savings, because then you don't have to do the layovers or whatever it might be, but you have the flexibility to then, this meeting is running longer than I need. I'm not worried about missing my flight. I am the flight, so whenever I get there, we'll leave. And the last part of this was the biblical integration. I chose 5:15 through 16. Be very careful then how you live, not as the unwise, but as wise, making most of every opportunity because the days are evil. And that ties back in because if you make the most of all your time, it saves you everything. And if you spend your time unwisely, start getting into the bad stuff and just choosing the way you live your life. It might cost you a lot more money in the long run to fly private, but it saves you time. You get to stay home with your family more. You get to be more effective as a company. You get to grow as a company more, and it just is a better place. But This Excel sheet so far has been really great. I think it's hilarious. Not hilarious, that's the wrong word. I think it's awesome. I think it's great. It's something that I've tried to create before, but never to this success. And I am looking forward to a lot more of this class now that I've seen just about what this class is really about with this Excel sheet. Thanks for watching.